This is how I create a new part line on a doll, which can also be used for doing pigtails. This kind of piggybacks off the first tutorial I did on rerouting a part here on the channel. If you haven't watched it yet, I would check it out first because that shows the way you need to angle your tool when rerouting a part. The artist who created our current logo also sent us a bunch of really cute concept art ideas for our mascot character, Minx. So I was inspired to do a mascot doll based off of her artwork. So I'm using a Libby Star Darlings doll as my base doll because she is just stinking adorable, and I love that her features so closely match Minx's face. Since I'm using a hard-headed doll, I had to wrap her up in a heating pad for about 30 minutes to get her head soft enough to even be able to remove it from the body. Luckily, it only took a little bit of pressure to get her head off, and then I was able to start prepping the head just like I would any other reroute. So I start cutting her hair with a regular pair of scissors, and I know that most of you already know how to do this. The main reason I'm including this is because my stepson who was filming this created a beautiful little song while I was cutting the hair because he got bored, and I love it so much that I'm totally including it in this video.
Like cutting your hair off, you're gonna look pretty. Da, da, da.
I'm using the hair removal tool that you can purchase from the Doll Planet to take the remaining factory hair out of her head. Because it is a hard-headed doll, I did have to roll it up in a heating pad a few times just to keep it soft enough to pull the hair out, because oh my gosh, hard-headed dolls are stubborn. We'll be using Frankenberry from the Doll Planet to reroute Minx. Frankenberry happens to be my favorite color of all the shades we have, so of course that's what I'm going to use to reroute our mascot doll. It's always good practice to paint the head as close as a match as you can to the new color that you're going to reroute. So I just throw on a quick coat and do a cover of her head with acrylic paint. Rerouting pigtails isn't difficult. There's just a couple of variations that I'm going to point out to help you to get an awesome result. I'm starting with her hairline, and I'm going to go all the way around her head in a circular pattern. It's really important that you not only get a really tight hairline, but that you don't skip any plugs, and you might need to even add plugs if you see any spacing in the hairline. That's super noticeable whenever you do a hairstyle that involves pulling the hair back. After you finish the hairline, move to the next row of plugs behind it and work around in the same circular motion. You're going to do this for the next 3 or 4 rows, and then you're going to stop. So this is where the variations start coming in. Okay, I've got a few rows now. Looks good in the front, but obviously she's still pretty bald. I skipped over the section where her original part was. That's because I'm doing a section for her side swept bangs as well as her pigtails, so I'm doing 2 parts in a way. I'm using a colored pencil that is a contrasting color so that it won't blend in and will be easy to see. I draw first a short line for her bangs, and now from there I am going to line it up. I basically eyeball it. You can measure it if you want to. You'd probably get a straighter part than I did. You eyeball the middle of her head, and then with the pencil just draw straight down with your pencil. You don't have to worry if it's like too dark, because this is going to be completely covered up by hair unless you like go super sparse, but I would not recommend that. So don't be afraid to get a nice solid line. And as you can see, I'm like kind of botching it up and doing it crooked, and it will make my part kind of crooked, which did happen. So This is one of those do as I say, not as I do situations. And of course my big old hands are in the way, and so this is not super easy to see because I'm still figuring out this whole angles thing. But because I'm doing her part first, it's a small section that's parted farther over than her pigtails. What I am doing is basically lining up the hair that I've already previously rooted, because I've done those first 3 rows. And in case you can't tell in the video, I'm using very thin plugs, about half of what a regular plug should be, because 2 plugs of hair are sharing the same hole. I hope that makes sense. I don't know how else to describe it. But that is essentially how you create that really tight part so that scalp won't be showing through. The reason that the hair is kind of all over the place is because I didn't use my flat iron as I was going through. I usually do that because that's my preference, but I know other people that isn't. And so I just wanted to kind of show an alternate way. But since that's what I'm used to, I'm kind of fumbling. So you can also just do something as simple as like just doing little clips as you go along working. Hopefully you are able to see how there is a part coming together for her bangs. Because you are just following a line and there's not plugs there to necessarily guide you, you may notice that as you go along, there could be some sparse areas that you need to go back and kind of fill in a little by maybe adding just a fraction of a plug of hair. You could wait until the end and go back and fill in any spaces. That's probably the best way to do it, but of course I don't do that. So I see a space and then I want to go back and fix it as soon as I see it. So that's how I do it. But that is pretty much the basics. And so now I'm just gonna go back to my main pigtail line and reroute that. But of course, I can't find the footage for that. So the closest I can find is after I've done already a good half of the head. But as you can see, I'm using the exact same technique. Luckily from a better angle, so hopefully you can see what I'm actually doing. And I just keep following my line. And, I mentioned earlier how my line is crooked. And okay with that. I'm okay with a little imperfection. But yeah, it is a little crooked. If you want it to be absolutely perfect, and if you see like your line starting to go crooked or your part starting to go crooked, just, pull out the plug and, move it to the right or the left or wherever you need to get it centered where you want. And you just keep on trucking all the way down to the bottom of the hairline. As you can see, she no longer looks bald because of all the hair that has been added for the pigtails. It fills it out really nice and covers up any bald areas, but doesn't make it so full that her pigtails aren't going to be sleek. I don't know about you, I like sleek pigtails. I imagine most other people would too. And even though it is a little bit crooked, you might notice that it's really not a huge deal unless it's, crazy bad asymmetrical. I'm okay with it. Maybe it's because I like asymmetrical things. I don't know. So I've styled her hair in low pigtails just because right now we're learning how to do pigtails in general. High pigtails, that's a whole nother styling video that I would need to do another time. And so, but she's looking pretty awesome and off to a good start. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thank you guys for watching.